Under the dense black fog, a terrifying skull gradually emerges. It is the god of destruction, Sutek, and one of the Doctor's most powerful enemies. A storm is about to descend. Humanity is on the brink of destruction, in unknown territories beyond Earth, containing numerous beings beyond comprehension. Let's follow the 15th Doctor, travel through time and space together, and unravel the secrets of various planets. On a Christmas night over a decade ago, a mysterious person abandoned a baby girl near the church on Ruby Road. The priest took her inside and named the baby Ruby. A time-traveling adventurer named the Doctor witnessed the entire incident. 19 years later, Ruby didn't give up on finding her birth mother. On this day, she participated in a family search program when the director suddenly heard a strange noise, and then a green little hand reached out and caused chaos, disrupting the filming scene. The family search program ended abruptly, while Ruby had grown accustomed to such occurrences. Unaware of the mischievous hands following her, she thought she was born unlucky. On that day, the green hand tried to knock over a wine glass, but it was caught by the Doctor.
Does that happen to you a lot? Knocking things over?
Oh, all the time, but I'm just clumsy.
No, you're not. It's worse than that.
Who left a message pretending to depart, while secretly following Ruby, fearing that she might get into trouble. The little green hand unscrewed a screw holding Christmas decorations, attempting to throw it at Ruby's stroller, but the Doctor noticed, and quickly used a sonic screwdriver, changing the traffic lights' colors. To help Ruby avoid the falling object, a woman pushing a stroller appeared, and the Doctor intervened. Getting hit by the decorations himself, he chased away the police, entered a police telephone booth, and vanished into the streets. The next day, Ruby returned home to celebrate, and she noticed the telephone booth on the street. As she prepared to go upstairs, the little green hand punctured a shopping bag. Ruby picks up the miscellaneous items and heads home. Even though she was abandoned by her birth mother, she found a loving adoptive family. Foster mother Kara often helps abandoned infants in the welfare home. On this Christmas, she welcomed another little girl, Lulu. Kara asked Ruby to take care of the house, while she went to the supermarket to buy diapers and baby formula. And at that moment, a genealogy show called. They searched the entire gene database, but they couldn't find Ruby's family. Moreover, the host has been unlucky since the interview ended, encountering accidents, falls, car accidents, and even injuries from a reindeer. It seems like they encountered all sorts of strange incidents. After thinking for a while, he believed the misfortune started when he met Ruby. He wanted to ask if there was any way to change his luck.
Can't avoid. And next time,
Ruby was wondering why the call was abruptly disconnected. When she heard strange noises from the baby monitor, she ran over to take a look, only to find that Lulu was missing. The Polaroid on the ground captured the culprit, revealing it to be a green goblin. Ruby chased after him and climbed to the rooftop, where two little goblins were about to snatch the baby. Ruby grabbed onto a rope ladder and followed them. Fortunately, in a critical moment, the Doctor appeared, and with a quick leap, he also caught the ladder. The Doctor handed Ruby a glove, which could adjust friction and gravity when she puts on, enabling her to hold on to anything she desired. The goblins' reason for kidnapping people was simple. As they enjoyed eating babies, the ladder pierced through the clouds, leading them into the goblins' spaceship.
Hiya.
During this period, the Doctor had been tracking the goblins, which is why he noticed Ruby. The goblins are time riders. They are able to travel through time and space. They pursue coincidences and luck. If you have a day where you're constantly unlucky, or coincidences keep happening, you're likely to be targeted by the goblins. Then misfortune will follow one after another, and every day will be influenced by them. However, Lulu and Ruby both were born on Christmas Day, which goblins love the most. That's why they gave up on Ruby and targeted Lulu instead. After the Doctor finished speaking, he untied the rope in his hands and released Ruby from captivity. They wanted to open the wooden door to rescue the baby, but they realized the sonic screwdriver was useless here, as the spaceship had no electrical wiring, only hemp ropes. The Doctor found a rope and pulled it, and indeed, it opened the tightly sealed door. Then he opened a ventilation duct, and the two crawled forward in the ventilation pipe. A burst of music could be heard from nearby, and they looked through the cracks in the wooden boards, only to discover the goblins reveling, clearly anticipating this feast for a long time. The little baby was being carried on a conveyor belt, falling into the Goblin King's mouth. The Doctor searched for the hemp rope controlling the conveyor belt, but he mistakenly dismantled a rope and fell into the party scene. He pretended to be calm as he rescued the baby, Then he asked Ruby to continue singing, diverting the Goblin King's attention. The doctor spotted the main rope's knot, and he held Ruby and the baby in his arms. Then he reversed the gravity function of his smart glove, increasing their weight, allowing them to grip the rope and land safely. Ruby worried that the goblins might catch up, but according to the doctor's knowledge, goblins only dare to operate at the edges of the world. However, if another unlucky accident were to happen, Ruby would still be entangled by the goblins. The two of them checked the safety of the house, eliminating any possibility of unexpected incidents. The doctor saw the photos on the wall, and he learned that Carla had taken care of many foster children, but Ruby was the only one who hadn't found her birth mother. The doctor recalled his own origins, as he was also adopted by someone. Just as the doctor felt saddened, a bolt of lightning struck the house, and he smiled, which meant that the goblins had left. However, the doctor soon stopped smiling, as Ruby disappeared into thin air. What's even stranger is that, when the doctor asked about Carla's daughter,
Who's Ruby?
Your daughter.
Ruby's bedroom turned into an empty room, and even Grandma didn't remember her granddaughter, and she became unusually depressed. She complained that this home was just a transit station, where no foster child ever stayed. Even Carla's temperament had changed. The photos of the 33 children on the wall disappeared, and now she only cared for foster abandoned babies, just to receive government subsidies. Ruby's absence was like the butterfly effect, affecting this family. The doctor suspected that the goblins had traveled back in time, and disrupted the timeline, taking away baby Ruby. He immediately used the time machine, and arrived on a Christmas Eve many years ago, which was also the beginning, the reason why the doctor appeared on Ruby Street. By this time, the baby had already been captured by the goblins, and taken onto their spaceship. The doctor put on the smart glove, and reversed gravity, pulling hard on the goblins' rope ladder, in order to bring their spaceship down. The doctor jumped off the bell tower, combining speed and gravity, and finally managed to pull down the Goblin King's large spaceship. The spire pierced through the goblin's body, and the spaceship vanished along with it. The doctor caught Ruby, and placed her back at the church entrance, and the woman who abandoned the baby was right ahead. The doctor wanted to help Ruby ask, "Why did you abandon your own child?" But to ensure the timeline remained intact, he suppressed his anger, and returned to the time machine. The doctor went to Ruby's home to confirm. Fortunately, things were back on track, and he even helped save the female host. After the doctor had done everything, he left, because he felt that he had brought misfortune upon them. But Ruby chased after him, opened the door of the telephone booth, and the scene inside left her greatly amazed. Ruby had too many questions to ask, like the doctor's name and origins, why the telephone booth had turned into a time machine. The doctor wouldn't disclose his name. As for why the time machine disguised itself as a telephone booth, it was because when he landed in 1963, there were police telephone booths on every corner, so he kept using this disguise until now. And the planet Gallifrey where the doctor was born, had long been destroyed. All the Time Lords have perished. Now there's only the adopted doctor remaining. He has already let go of the past, determined to start anew. The doctor, in order to make Ruby believe him, activated the time machine, and arrived 150 million years ago, which was the era of dinosaurs. Ruby was very nervous. What if I step on a butterfly, causing damage to the primeval world, and altering history? She asked. The doctor told her to relax, saying that a butterfly that can fly wouldn't be stepped on, and Ruby finally stepped outside the door. The scene before her made her scalp tingle, and right at that moment, a butterfly landed at Ruby's feet.
What's wrong? Did I do something wrong?
The doctor saved the butterfly, restoring Ruby to her original state. He took Ruby back to the time machine, making sure to activate the butterfly compensation switch this time. Then, the doctor asked Ruby to choose a specific time, and Ruby recited a series of numbers. The time machine immediately arrived in the year 21506, and they landed on a massive spaceship. There was a foul odor in the air, and a creature is faintly visible in the corridor. The doctor took Ruby into an elevator to hide, and they arrived at a chamber for asexual reproduction. The nutrient fluid contained healthy developing babies, and Ruby had suspicions, thinking that these babies were food for the creatures. The doctor was startled by her thoughts, and he explained that some worlds couldn't reproduce naturally, so they built baby farms to increase the population. The doctor searched around, and opened the protective shields, revealing the vastness of the universe before their eyes. Ruby felt deeply moved, realizing that humanity not only survived in the year 19,000, but also managed to reach the stars. She couldn't help but feel sorry for the doctor, who had lost all his people, which must have been painful. The doctor replied, "It's alright, I guess. Even though I have no family or home, I don't have to work either. I don't have to serve a boss. I have freedom and time." Ruby was very envious. The doctor opened the control panel to check the location of the spaceship. Ruby saw that the panel was entirely in English, and she was surprised. "Is this world still using English?" she asked. The doctor explained, "I activated the translator. In fact, humanity only speaks one language at this time, and that language is Chinese." He took Ruby's phone and set it to universal communication mode, so that Ruby could contact her foster mother. Right at that moment, a little baby appeared in a stroller, and as soon as the baby saw the doctor and Ruby, he called out, "Mommy and Daddy." He led the two of them to the control room, which was filled with babies. These children were the ones maintaining the spaceship's operations. The children were seeking recognition from their parents, as they had never seen adults before, and they longed for parental love. In order to figure out what was going on, the doctor went to check the ship's log, and he discovered the crew had long abandoned the ship, but they had left the breeding chambers operational, without knowing why. Due to a lack of a certain crucial hormone, all the babies were unable to grow.
But are we wrong?
What do you mean?
We're not meant to be like this.
The doctor comforted the babies, that no one is a mistake. We are all unique beings in the universe. From the babies, the two of them learned. It was the caretaker system on the spaceship that was responsible for taking care of them, changing their diapers and feeding them on schedule. The doctor was curious. "Is the creature in the lower level a pet dog?" he asked. The children burst into tears, saying that it was a snot creature, not a dog. Ruby quickly comforted the children, while the doctor put on headphones to contact the caretaker system, explaining that there was an overload of pressure in the cabin, and if it continued like that, it would surely explode. The caretaker system instructed him to go to door number 357. The doctor was wondering why Ruby always connected with abandoned babies. Could there be a connection between them? He asked Ruby if she had any clues about her birth mother, but Ruby was not aware of the details. She knew that on a snowy day, she was left on Ruby Street near a church. Suddenly, it began snowing inside the spaceship. The doctor, who had experienced numerous time and space travels, had never encountered such a strange occurrence. Perhaps Ruby still held some secrets within her. Right at that moment, the caretaker system revealed itself, as it turned out to be a real person hiding behind the machinery. The caretaker played a recording left by the crew for the doctor and Ruby, explaining that the government had closed down baby stations to save money, but the law stipulates that stopping childbirth machines is illegal. So when the crew left, they didn't shut down the birthing chambers. The caretaker's real name was Joyce. She was an accountant stationed there. She chose to stay because she was concerned about the babies, but she had no knowledge of spaceship repairs. The doctor inserted a sonic screwdriver into the operating system, assisting the spaceship in self-repair. There was still something he couldn't understand. Why didn't Joyce reveal her true self to the children? It turned out that the spaceship's energy was on the brink of depletion. She decided to save the last remaining air for the children, and she didn't want them to experience the pain of separation and death. So she had disguised herself as a robot from the beginning, avoiding emotional connections with the children. The doctor was determined to rescue everyone. He wanted to take everyone to the nearby interstellar organization, where refugees would be accepted without restrictions. Yet the snot creature was blocking their way downstairs. They had to deal with it first, but the doctor was afraid when faced with the creature. This situation was truly rare. While they were discussing their plan, a stroller suddenly rushed downstairs. When Ruby comforted the child, she once said that there are no monsters in the world. The children believed her words and thought it was true, so they wanted to go down and teach the monster a lesson. The snot creature suddenly pounced on the stroller. The doctor and Ruby quickly rushed over to stop it, but when the two of them arrived at the scene, they only saw an empty stroller. Ruby picked up a stick and made noise, trying to lure the snot creature out, and it worked as expected. Immediately after, the doctor also found the hidden baby. They held the baby and took cover from the monster, but it continued to chase them relentlessly. At a critical moment, the space babies arrived together, and they drove away the monster, using weapons attached to their strollers. The doctor expressed his gratitude to everyone, and instructed the babies to immediately return to the upper level. He and Ruby continued to track the monster. Joyce explained, the first time she noticed something strange was 6 years ago. She heard noises in the pipes, and then the snot creature appeared. The monster appeared at the same time as the babies were being born. The doctor and Ruby arrived at the faulty pipe location. Unexpectedly, a large pile of slime fell from above. He took some samples for testing, and that's when they discovered the snot creature was also artificially grown. Due to a malfunction in the ship's education system, it determined that the children needed fairy tales, so it created a monster directly, equipped with a 17 Hz roar. This sound instinctively induces fear in people, which is why the doctor felt uncomfortable. The most bizarre thing is, the monster's raw material is actually snot. No wonder it's called the snot monster. Ruby just got drenched in slime. It's truly disgusting. The snot monster appeared. Fortunately, the spaceship was repaired. Joyce instructed the doctor and Ruby to act as bait, luring the monster into the airlock, opening the door to let the monster be sucked out by the pressure. The doctor believed the snot monster didn't deserve to die. It was simply following the instructions of the education system, responsible for scaring the children. It didn't actually harm the children, so the doctor rushed into the airlock to save them. At a critical moment, Ruby successfully went upstairs to stop Joyce. The doctor and the snot monster escaped safely. Now they just needed to find a way to drive the spaceship. The doctor came up with an idea. Do you remember the constant smell inside the spaceship? That's because of the accumulated diapers. Over the past 6 years, the waste room has generated a high concentration of methane. They just need to utilize these gases, so that they can make the spaceship travel to the interstellar organization. After the two of them resolved the baby crisis, the doctor gave Ruby a time machine key. He reminded her, "We can go anywhere, anytime, but we can't go back to that snowy night, when you were abandoned. Otherwise, we'll fall into the deepest, darkest paradox." Those snowflakes appearing out of nowhere are a warning. After the doctor finished speaking, he sent her back to her foster mother's house for her birthday, and he stayed inside the time machine, scanning Ruby's DNA. The results were about to come out, but Ruby called the doctor out to say hello. Just as he left the time machine, snowflakes started falling from the sky. Meanwhile, in the year 1925, a piano maestro was teaching a student named Henry to play the piano. The child grew tired of the famous piece and asked him to play something interesting. The teacher played a piece called The Devil's Chord. This piece was forbidden during the Middle Ages, as the church believed it would summon the devil. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from inside the piano. The strange person waved his hand, and the boy turned into a pile of clothes, and the name Henry on the register turned into an ill omen. The teacher asked, "Who are you, strange person?" The strange person replied, "I am music. You can also call me the Maestro." The Maestro knew that the piano teacher was talented, but unfortunately, he didn't receive recognition in the market, so he had to keep the melodies trapped inside him. And this journey of the Maestro was to take away these compositions. He played the piano frantically, sucking out the music scores hidden deep within the pianist, and swallowing them all into his belly. Ruby has decided on the destination for her next time travel. She wants to visit the Beatles and witness the recording of their debut album. The doctor agreed with this idea, and he and Ruby dressed in retro attire. Together they arrived on February 11, 1963. They walked through the pedestrian crossing on the Beatles album cover, heading towards the famous Abbey Road Studios. However, in 1963, it was still called EMI Studios. In the future, this place would give birth to countless hit songs. The two of them disguised as tea delivery staff to enter the recording studio, and coincidentally, they caught the Beatles recording a record.
The dog, he's called Fred. My dog is alive, he's not dead.
What on earth are they singing? How could the Beatles write such lousy songs? The doctor and Ruby went next door to listen to Scylla's recording.
I love you, you love me, we are two, we are not.
Obviously, the result was equally disappointing. When it was time for a meal, the musicians gathered together in silence for their meal. No one hummed a tune, no one tapped to the rhythm, but Ruby believed music is not something that can be easily lost or erased. It is the highest form of thought. If music has changed, then history must be moving towards an unknown direction. In order to set things right, they went separately to find Paul McCartney and have a conversation with John Lennon. Through their conversation, it became clear, at some point, creating music became a shy endeavor. Everyone just wanted to make money. With cheap, fast food style songs, John even planned to finish the album and return to Liverpool to forget everything, as singing had become an embarrassing thing. The doctor refused to give up hope. He asked Paul, "Isn't there a certain melody hidden deep in your mind?" Paul was taken aback. In fact, every time he dreamed at midnight, he could always recall an unforgettable melody. Paul couldn't help but hum, and in the next moment, the people in the restaurant looked up, as if he had committed a huge mistake. Then, the face of that strange maestro appeared everywhere. Paul, reminded of something, instantly regained his indifference. The doctor and Ruby were deeply affected. They went to the rooftop to calm themselves. Suddenly, the doctor pointed to the location of Totter's Lane and said, "When I first landed on Earth in 1963, I lived there with my granddaughter, Susan." Ruby was surprised to learn that he had a granddaughter. But now, the doctor had lost track of Susan, due to the Time Lord's extinction, across time and space. Maybe Susan had already died in this catastrophe. The doctor had someone bring a piano. As he had seen Ruby play the piano before, he asked her to play a piece, to bring music back to the world. The nearby residents heard the sound, and opened their windows. They hadn't heard such moving music for a long time, and these melodies once again attracted the maestro. The doctor pulled Ruby, and fled to the basement. But the maestro still pursued them based on sound waves. It had control over all sounds. After realizing this, the doctor immediately used a sonic screwdriver to shield all sounds. No matter how the maestro sang or broke things, the world remained silent. Yet, it didn't give up. The maestro put a tuning fork into a puddle. The speed of sound propagation in water is 5 times faster than in the air. The doctor's little trick was instantly broken, and the maestro was preparing to catch them. The old lady upstairs started playing Debussy's Clair de Lune, and the maestro dove into the piano to retrieve the music. The doctor guessed that it might be a member of the pantheon of discord, just like the Toymaker. This group of people is enigmatic. The last time the doctor fought against the Toymaker, his souls were torn in half. Ruby expressed that since she still remembers those famous melodies, it means that music hasn't disappeared. The doctor didn't explain much, but instead took Ruby back to 2024. The whole world was desolate. Without music, humans became irritable and quick-tempered, losing their way to express their broken emotions. They even started wars without knowing the reasons, leading to destruction. Ruby survived because of the doctor. Just then, the maestro appeared in a new suit. Seeing that the doctor could freely travel through time, the maestro concluded that the doctor belonged to the Time Lords, and the maestro's father, the Toymaker, was sealed by the Time Lords. If the Toymaker represents the game itself, then the maestro represents music itself. Ruby couldn't understand. If you are the god of music, why would you erase its existence? The maestro said, "The sound of nuclear winter is the purest Aeolian mode. It is the most touching without the need for human music. Every unsung song makes the maestro more powerful, until it can steal all the music from every planet, and bring the entire universe to a standstill. This requiem will become the maestro's most outstanding symphony." The doctor knows that in order to drive the maestro out of Earth, they need to figure out how it got in. The maestro refuses to reveal the truth, so the doctor brings out the Toymaker to pressure it. "Your father established the rules for a fair game, and never allowed anyone to cheat." The maestro confesses that a genius found the lost chord, and summoned him to Earth while playing it. This means that finding another combination of notes can exile the maestro. But of course, it won't give the doctor a chance. The maestro wants to control the TARDIS through the piano. Everything resonates, every atom is in harmony, and everything that produces sound is under its control, including the TARDIS. The doctor forcefully regains control, and takes Ruby back to 1963. They quickly head to the recording studio, aiming to retrieve the exiled notes. But as the doctor prepares to play, another melody suddenly plays, and a black sheet of music binds Ruby, dragging her out of the recording studio. The doctor is trapped behind the door, unable to get out. He grabs a chair and smashes the glass, then takes the sonic screwdriver, and catches up with the maestro and Ruby. Ruby is the last person in the world who remembers music, so the maestro wants to devour her. Unexpectedly, Ruby suddenly hums a melody, and snowflakes swirl in the air. Deep within her soul, she holds a hidden song. It's the song Ruby heard on the day she was abandoned. It possesses a power that surpasses even the chaotic gods. Even the maestro cannot take it away.
This creature is very wrong.
The doctor opens the Abbey Road piano. He prepares to drive the maestro out of Earth with music. They, one on the piano, and one on the violin. Ruby and the doctor play together with 4 hands. They destroy the maestro's violin, but the maestro is convinced that the doctor cannot find the lost chord. The clever doctor surprisingly hits 6 notes in a row correctly.
No!
The Maestro unleashes a powerful move. The piano is forcefully thrown out of the door by the force of the sheet music. Then, various instruments take turns joining the battle. The Doctor and Ruby are trapped by musical notes. One of them is locked inside a cello, the other is trapped in a drum, while the Maestro enjoys himself. At that moment, John and Paul arrive at the piano. They see the unfinished chord. The melody hidden deep in their hearts is awakened. They exchange a smile and complete the chord. In the next moment, the piano rushes towards the Maestro and completely seals it. Music returns to Earth in the end, and the world returns to its normal operation. In a battlefield filled with gunfire, two soldiers are crossing a minefield. One of them has impaired vision, with a cloth bandage over his eyes, but he hasn't given up hope of staying alive, because his daughter is waiting in a refugee camp. At this moment, the soldier Carson with intact vision sees an ambulance ahead. Instead of going for treatment, they appear to be very anxious. Carson is about to observe further, but unfortunately, he steps on empty space and falls into a deep pit. He signals to his visually impaired officer not to panic. The dormant ambulance is immediately awakened. It fires two probes into the visually impaired officer's body, detecting temporary blindness in both eyes. Recovery will take 4 weeks. The ambulance concludes, it's not worth wasting resources on treatment. It prepares for humanitarian termination.
Leave a message at the tone.
Kiss, kiss.
This is the farewell message the officer says to his daughter. During their conversations, the ambulance releases an electric current to kill the officer. Screams of agony reach the ears of the Doctor, who is nearby. He is about to run over to assess the situation, but he accidentally steps on a landmine. Ruby also dares not move recklessly. This landmine detector is highly sensitive. Once it confirms the Doctor as a living target, it will detonate instantly, so the Doctor dares not look down. He asks Ruby to describe what the landmine looks like. Upon learning that there is still 4-finger-wide circle unlit, the Doctor finally breathes a sigh of relief. It means the landmine won't detonate temporarily. The mine is labeled with the letter V, representing it is manufactured by the historical weapon manufacturer Villengard. That anti-human ambulance is also their creation. The Doctor instructs Ruby to go to the location of the screaming and confirm if someone needs assistance, and also bring a heavy object, because he can't stand on one foot for too long. He needs external support to maintain balance. As Ruby walks out not far, she picks up a can. It has John written on it. Cause of death, blindness. At that moment, a row of vacuum drones flies by. They are responsible for absorbing smoke without harming anyone. After the thick smoke dissipates, Ruby sees the true appearance of this planet. Based on the neighboring planets' positions, this place should be the Casterian 3. The Doctor has some doubts. This planet is essentially devoid of any life or objects. Who would be fighting here? At this moment, Ruby returns with the can. The Doctor is surprised upon seeing it. He doesn't want to use the can as a footrest, because it is a compressed human body part, but there are no other heavy objects around. The Doctor estimates the weight of the body in the can to be approximately 732 kilograms. As long as he catches it with his right hand and lowers his left foot, he can maintain balance. Ruby thinks it's easy to make a mistake by throwing it. She disregards her own life and walks to the Doctor's side. She personally hands the can to him. Fortunately, the outcome is safe and sound. The Doctor's left foot lands safely. Due to the surge of adrenaline in him, the circle rises a few notches, ultimately stopping at a very dangerous value.
Thank you, John Francis Vater.
Hello, I'm John Francis Vater.
It turns out this small cinerary casket is voice-activated. John requested that whoever found his remains deliver them to his parents, Agnes and Millicent. The address will be provided as needed. The Doctor realizes that this is an artificial intelligence. Based on the late John, the Doctor and Ruby engage in a conversation with the AI. They learn that this young soldier was euthanized by Villengard's ambulance due to temporary blindness. The reason for doing so was simply that in the budgetary considerations of warfare, John's recovery time exceeded what they deemed acceptable. Villengard believes in cheap lives, expensive patience. Its war products are equipped with artificial intelligence, responsible for keeping casualties within an acceptable range, so that people can continue fighting and dying, and continuously purchase their products. In this era, war is business. The lives of soldiers are the least valuable. At that moment, John's daughter, Lays, came over. It turns out the little girl received a kiss message and found her way through geographical markers. Lays lost her mother at a young age. Her father fought hard to get permission to bring her along on military campaigns. The doctor couldn't bring himself to tell her about John's fate, that John was euthanized. He changed the subject and asked for Lay's full name. Just as the girl uttered her name, it awakened the AI in the cinerary casket. The doctor's adrenaline surged once again. He had already been marked as an explosive by the landmine. At that moment, a female soldier named Monty appeared. She belonged to the Anglican Marine. Ruby was very surprised. When did the church become an army? What's even more absurd is that Monty and her comrades have never seen the true face of the enemy. They only know them as Casterian people, always hidden in mist and mud.
Sir, I do not have
Seriously?
time for this.
Do you know how ridiculous you sound?
They are completely fighting against imaginary enemies, while causing their own compatriots to sacrifice. Monty didn't argue. She demanded that the doctor hand over the cinerary casket immediately. Since the moment the landmine is triggered, the countdown has already started. When the time is up, he will undoubtedly die. Monty finishes speaking, shot the doctor in the arm, but the doctor didn't let go, because the doctor is a Time Lord, a higher dimensional life form. If he were to explode, it would be enough to destroy the entire planet. After scanning, Monty discovered the doctor wasn't lying. However, the gunshot quickly attracted an ambulance. It scanned the scene and found the injured. It assessed the doctor, but the ambulance had never encountered this life form before. At a critical moment, Ruby grabbed Monty's gun and fired several shots into the distance. In an attempt to distract the ambulance, Monty instructed Ruby to shoot her arm, only if it detected an injured person. Would the ambulance perform injury assessment? Monty had already set the firearm damage to the minimum. Just as Ruby was about to act, Monty's comrade arrived at the scene. He immediately shot at Ruby. Ruby was hit by several shots and fell to the ground, and the ambulance quickly came to assess.
Ruby Sunday, calendar age 3082 years of kin. Next of kin.
Ruby's background is about to be revealed, but the ambulance suddenly malfunctions. Then heavy snowfall begins in the sky. It's important to note that Casterian never experiences snow. The doctor, however, breathed a sigh of relief. Snowfall signifies the occurrence of miracles. In the next moment, the snowflakes freeze. Time seems to pause. The ambulance detects Ruby's vital signs deteriorating. Estimated time of death, 432 seconds. Since the patient is not commissioned, the ambulance withdraws treatment. The doctor becomes emotionally stirred. There's only one ring left on the landmine's indicator. Monty's comrade roughly understands the situation. To prevent the doctor from exploding, he intends to reset the ambulance's protocols to save Ruby, but there are only 5 minutes left on the countdown. This amount of time is far from sufficient.
News.
Even if that were possible, which it isn't, even if I had the divinity to authorize that, it wouldn't switch off the landmine.
The doctor responds with certainty. If you surrender, everything will end, because this landmine belongs to you. The so-called Casterian people don't exist at all. Monty and the others, for the past 6 months, have been searching for enemies in the void. They fell into the Villengard algorithm. The algorithm made the soldiers believe in the existence of imaginary enemies, and through these landmines, ambulances controlled the number of deaths to ensure the continuous purchase of Villengard products for the Holy War. But Monty insists she will only surrender with approval. The doctor summons AI John to enter the Villengard database to prove that this planet is uninhabited. AI John still retains fragments of his original consciousness, the instinct of being a father, rooted deep within the artificial intelligence form. He is willing to violate digital agreements to help. But as soon as John enters the ambulance system, an explosion occurs right after. The comrade attempting to modify the ambulance protocols dies tragically, and also transforms into an AI form.
Identified as Monty Flynn, my designated favorite person. Here is a personal message recorded just.
The young man expresses his feelings only at the moment of death. Meanwhile, the Villengard algorithm detects John's intrusion. It immediately activates the firewall to permanently remove him. At this moment, the landmine beneath the doctor starts its countdown. He closes his eyes and awaits death.
Yes.
Antelope, dad to dad, dust to dust, dust.
However, John delves deep into the system network and successfully defeats the Villengard algorithm. He initiates the ambulance's regeneration protocol to revive Ruby. the landmine also returns to a safe state. The villain guard algorithm, in this way, is defeated by a child's father. The Doctor and Ruby bid farewell to Monty and Lays. They return to the time machine to continue their new journey. In the future world, smartphones have evolved into holographic projection masks. Humans can immerse themselves in them 24/7. Even while walking, they don't need to take them off. Voice assistants will guide you on your way. On this day, Lindy was watching a video of her idol's new release. A mysterious doctor suddenly entered her screen.
Creatures out there in the real world, there are monsters and they are coming to get you. No, Lindy, don't!
Lindy thought it was just junk information, and immediately blocked it. She proceeded to her workplace as usual, guided by the mask. The city named Finetime is hidden within a massive protective shields. Residents only need to work 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time is dedicated to leisure. Just then, the doctor's assistant, Ruby, intruded into Lindy's page again. She falsely claimed to be a system inspector for Finetime Corporation. Ruby praised Lindy's blouse, and then mentioned her own difficulties adjusting to work. She wanted to know about Lindy's position. Lindy explained, "My job is to organize data, and transmit it back to my hometown planet." Ruby asked if their office was hiring, and Lindy didn't know the specific situation. She was in a 6-person office, but they had never taken off their masks to talk to each other. They communicated through video calls for any messages, because people in Finetime never removed their holographic masks. Ruby pleaded with Lindy to check if others were present. Lindy called her colleague Danny, but no one answered. However, Lindy still didn't want to remove her holographic mask. Ruby suggested that she could observe through the gaps in the chat box.
Where are they? That's why I asked.
Lindy turned her head to check the other workstations. She saw a slug-like monster through the gaps. She gathered her courage and opened her holographic mask. She turned her head and discovered that the slug was devouring her colleague. Lindy quickly activated her holographic mask and opened a video to calm herself down. Yet, the Doctor and Ruby squeezed into the page again. Due to the protective shield, both of them couldn't enter Finetime. They persuaded Lindy to remove her holographic mask and cooperate with them. They explained that there were many monsters outside, and the holographic mask wouldn't help avoid danger. If Lindy bumped into one, she would be swallowed. But the Doctor overlooked one thing: the residents of Finetime had been tamed, and without arrow markings, Lindy didn't even know how to walk. In the end, she left the office under the guidance of the holographic mask, but Lindy encountered the slug-like monster in the elevator. Lindy dared not move. Strangely, the slug-like monster didn't harm her but turned away. She got on the elevator. The Doctor and Ruby were puzzled as to why the two monsters didn't attack Lindy. Lindy didn't want to talk to the two strangers anymore, so she called the police. She wanted to hand the monsters over to the police, but nobody answered the call. Lindy had to follow the Doctor and Ruby's arrangement. They persuaded her to temporarily turn off the holographic mask and observe the surroundings. It turned out that she had been hovering on the brink of death every day, on her way to and from work. This reality frightened Lindy, and she cowered in the corner. Afraid to move, Lindy described the scene to the Doctor, explaining that although the streets were full of monsters, there were indeed people who were ignored like her. In other words, not everyone would be swallowed by the slug-like monsters. Could it be that these creatures were selective eaters? Moreover, Finetime had such high-tech protective shields. So how did these monsters manage to break in? Lindy speculated that the slug-like monsters might come from the wilderness, because Finetime was completely surrounded by forests. They have been using the Force to create a protective shield to isolate themselves from the outside world. The city selects young wealthy heirs, aged 17 to 27, from their home, to live there. Of course, their parents have to pay a substantial fee. Suddenly, Lindy's mother called. The Doctor and Ruby took a look. Isn't that the holographic representation from the Villain Guard rescue ship? Just as the two of them were perplexed, Lindy initiated a video group chat. She wanted to see if her friends were okay. She discovered that most people had already lost contact. She told the survivors about the slug-like monsters that eat people, but these wealthy heirs didn't believe her at all.
Not even I would say something like that. Just because someone goes up on the street.
The Doctor and Ruby took the opportunity to join the group chat. They said they had an escape route. In the complex network of tunnels in Finetime, there is one that leads to an underground river. Once everyone finds that river, the Doctor can rescue them. After he finished speaking, he sent the coordinates of the tunnels to everyone. Lindy only heard square 55. Her holographic mask ran out of power, because she usually charged it while working. Lindy had to rely on herself now.
Forward. Forward.
Lindy turned a corner, and saw a bunch of slugs. Fortunately, square 55 was just ahead. She almost ended up in the mouth of one of the creatures. In a critical moment, a man's voice echoed. Lindy saw her idol, Ricky. With Ricky's guidance, she successfully avoided the slugs. Ricky was one of the first to awaken in Finetime. He often secretly removed his holographic mask to enjoy a normal life. That's why Ricky not only walked smoothly, but also knew about the escape route the doctor mentioned. He shielded Lindy from the sight of the slugs devouring people.
Maybe it's the best.
There's still thousands of people being eaten alive.
Yeah, but...
Afterward, they arrived at the building the doctor mentioned. Lindy quickly charged her holographic projection mask. Ricky dialed his home planet's phone. He wanted to contact people from there to come and rescue them, while the video screen showed that their home planet had already been overrun by the slug-like monsters. All the residents had been killed. Ricky didn't tell Lindy the truth. He lied, saying that the rescue team was on its way to prevent Lindy from losing her will to survive. After they finished charging, they immediately found the tunnel the doctor mentioned. However, entering it required a password to unlock. Lindy immediately contacted the doctor. Using her holographic mask, the doctor explained that the gate was sealed one way and consisted of 100 digits. He could transmit the pulse wave codes to Lindy one by one. A string of numbers would be transmitted every 5 seconds. Lindy and Ricky had to input the numbers quickly and not miss any. Ricky interrupted the doctor's detailed explanation, saying he had also studied pulse wave codes and understood the basic principles. While Ricky tested the password, the doctor focused on studying the rules of the slug's devouring behavior.
We're the most tasty. Well, Ricky is.
Steady.
The doctor interrupted Lindy and checked her holographic mask's friend list and quickly discovered that they were going offline one by one in alphabetical order. Lindy's surname starts with the letter P. That means there's only one person with the same surname ahead of her, but that person was quickly killed as well. The next person the slug monster is looking for is Lindy. Ricky comforts her not to be nervous, as the monsters move slowly, and he's there to protect her. Lindy forces herself to calm down. The doctor speculates that since the monsters kill people in alphabetical order, they are most likely created. No wonder the holographic mask doesn't warn the wearer to evade. Perhaps it has developed self-awareness and thinks that humans are extremely annoying, so it designed the monsters to eliminate them. Ruby tells Lindy to turn off the holographic mask to avoid revealing their location. Unfortunately, they realized it too late. Lindy's holographic mask turns red and no longer obeys her commands, and even starts attacking her. Ricky asks her to handle entering the password. He deals with the holographic mask himself. The restored prototype holographic mask crashes into everything. It deliberately breaks the cable and hurls it at Ricky, but the holographic mask doesn't kill him, because this time the target is Lindy with the letter P. Lindy suddenly shouts, "Actually, Ricky's surname is Kubuz. His initial letter is ahead of mine in the alphabetical order." It turns out that when Ricky reached 50,000 followers on social media, he changed his name to Ricky September. Lindy is well aware of these things. The holographic mask indeed changes direction. While Ricky's head is pierced, Lindy successfully opens the pipeline and escapes the scene. She quickly sees the doctor and Ruby, but she doesn't thank her lifesavers. She walks towards her friends. Ruby asks, "Where did Ricky go?"
He said he had other people to save. I couldn't stop him.
For some reason, Lindy's eyes always carry disdain. She thanks the doctor. Her friends invite Lindy to leave Finetime and conquer the outside world. Lindy is very puzzled. Don't we wait for our home planet to come and pick us up? After a moment of silence, they tell Lindy the truth. The home planet no longer exists. The doctor on the side suggests that they can leave by taking the time machine, and he will help find a suitable planet to live on. But Lindy reacts as if she heard a joke.
I'm not one of us. I mean, so you were kind, although it was your duty to save me, obviously.
The privileged white people of Finetime, who have received elite education since childhood, have a clear class system in their hearts, and would never associate with black people. The doctor is very saddened, but he maintains his dignity. He may not care how these people perceive him, but letting them leave is like sending them to their deaths. The doctor wants to fight for another chance, to let everyone board the time machine and leave.
Before we contaminated.
Make you all die!
The doctor travels through endless time and space, saving countless lives and civilizations. He feels despair and absurdity like never before. The doctor looks into Lindy's contemptuous eyes. He returns to the time machine. Shortly after, the doctor and Ruby arrive at the Welsh seaside. Both of them are familiar with this place. Even Ruby has been here twice. The doctor suddenly mentions the most dangerous prime minister in history in Wales, Roger A.P. Gwilliam. He nearly detonated a world nuclear bomb, but the doctor stops himself because it's an event from 2046. He can't reveal too much about the future to Ruby. While they are chatting, Ruby steps on a circular pattern that contains Lucky Charms and a bird skull. She picks up a piece of paper with the words, "Rest in peace, Mad Jack" written on it. Ruby realizes that the doctor is gone right after she finishes reading, and she initially thinks he's playing a prank. Unexpectedly, the door of the time machine is locked from the outside. Ruby sees a person in black not far away, and intends to ask for directions, but she quickly realizes that no matter how many steps she takes forward, the person in black moves backward accordingly. Ruby tries several times but eventually gives up. She walks down the cliff to find the doctor, but the person in black follows her closely, always a few steps away, watching her. Shortly after, Ruby encounters a backpacker. She asks the backpacker to negotiate with the person in black, to find out who she is, and what her purpose is. The backpacker follows her instructions, but after a few whispered words from the person in black, the backpacker screams and runs away. Ruby is also frightened, as the person in black continues to follow her into the night. Terrified, she runs into a pub at the foot of the mountain. Ruby quickly rents a room. Fortunately, they accept mobile payments here. She walks to the window, and sees the person in black still standing on the street. The pub's patrons find it too cold outside, and ask why Ruby doesn't bring her friend in. She hurriedly explains that she doesn't know the person in black, and is just being followed. A bearded customer finds it strange, and decides to go and ask on Ruby's behalf. The situation happened again, and the bearded man also runs away. The other patrons sense something is amiss, and ask Ruby to explain the whole situation in detail. An elderly lady with white hair, after hearing the story, says, despite the many small castles in Wales, it is actually a network of torture centers, established by the British for the purpose of instilling fear. This land is soaked in blood, and holds great power. The cliff where Ruby landed is a boundary between land and sea, an edge space where rules are temporarily suspended. The magical formation she accidentally triggered is called the Fairy Circle, and anyone who disrupts it is cursed. The shopkeeper asks Ruby if she saw a note and what's written on it.
Rest in peace, Mad Jack.
Oh my god.
From the people's accounts, it can be inferred that Mad Jack is a terrifying presence. The magical formation is meant to bind his soul and grant him peace. It exists so as not to disturb the lives of others. But Ruby has broken the seal. The woman outside is highly likely to be Jack's messenger. There's a frantic knocking on the door, and Ruby doesn't believe in the legend of Mad Jack. She musters up courage and goes to open the door.
Oh my god, it's him.
The crowd mocks her for believing it, but Ruby is certain in her heart. The fairy circle is definitely not just a legend. Otherwise, how could the doctor disappear inexplicably? In the following days, she waits at the cliff every day, but as time passes, the doctor still doesn't appear. Her account balance is almost depleted. Ruby says goodbye to the time machine, and prepares to go home with her remaining money. The problem is, the person in black is still following her, and no matter how fast the train is, the person always stands outside the window. After returning home, Ruby tells her foster mother, Carla, that someone is following her, but she can't get close to them. Carla comes up with an idea. She can put the phone on speaker, and talk to the person in black, allowing Ruby to hear their conversation. But Ruby is worried that her foster mother might run away like the others. Carla thinks, I'm not Welsh either, so it's worth taking a risk. Ruby's worst fear comes true. She not only doesn't hear the voice of the person in black, but her foster mother is also scared away. Carla's cold gaze pierces Ruby, and she can't afford to lose her only family. Ruby calls her mother, but her mother refuses to come home, or take care of their grandmother, in order to avoid her. One day, when Ruby returns home from grocery shopping, she discovers that the locks have been changed by her foster mother. She finally manages to call Carla, but Carla warns her not to call again.
I'm your daughter.
Well, except you're not. Are you?
Not long after, Carla files a restraining order against Ruby, and everyone leaves her except for the woman in black who remains nearby. Finally, Ruby chooses to seek help from Kated Unit, an organization dedicated to investigating aliens and various supernatural phenomena. It also includes past companions who have helped the Doctor, and Kate hasn't heard from the Doctor in a long time. Earth can only survive thanks to UNIT, and this timeline is in a suspended state due to Ruby's situation. Kate also points out that the woman in black, like the Doctor's TARDIS, has a sensory filter. People will notice it, but won't find it strange. A year later, Ruby has tried various methods, but cannot escape the woman in black. She always stands 73 yards away. Ruby has also considered taking a plane or a ship to see if it can break the distance between them, but she hasn't dared to do it, because she senses that if she does, she may die. Kate attempts to take photos of the woman in black, but no matter how advanced the equipment is, she can't capture her appearance. It seems that the only way to uncover the truth is to capture the woman in black. Ruby reminds Kate that if they come into contact with her, they are likely to be influenced. Kate assures her to relax, as the members of UNIT have received professional training and are equipped with telepathic inhibitors and hypnotic safeguards. With a command from Kate, UNIT immediately surrounds the woman in black. Through her earpiece, she reminds the team members not to engage in any form of communication with the woman in black, and to arrest her. Yet, an unexpected event occurs.
Disengage.
Kate and the team abandon Ruby and escape, leaving her with nowhere else to turn for help. Ruby becomes accustomed to this life, and every Christmas, she still raises her glass towards the window as a gesture, knowing that the woman in black will not abandon her. In the following days, Ruby even had a few boyfriends, but they all broke up with her, because she was not fully present in the relationship.
Listening, like drifting off, thinking of something else. Well, like now, to be honest.
The time advances to the year 2046, and Ruby's new boyfriend is complaining, but her attention is fully focused on the news broadcasted on the television. A politician named Roger A. P. Gwilliam is being interviewed.
Ball trades. Matt Jack, they used to call me.
Ruby's thoughts go back to 22 years ago, when she arrived in Wales with the Doctor. He mentioned the most dangerous prime minister in history, and the phrase "rest in peace, Mad Jack," all of which are related to this Roger A. P. Gwilliam. It took Ruby 22 years to figure out what she came here to do.
Which is what?
I'm gonna save the world.
Ruby first volunteered at the Prime Minister election, and with her excellent skills, she quickly got close to Roger A. P. Gwilliam. She also realized the terrifying nature of this person. Roger A. P. Gwilliam wanted to spend £60 billion to purchase nuclear weapons, making Britain one of the greatest nations. He claimed it was for national strength, but Ruby knew his hidden agenda. Not long after, he successfully became the Prime Minister, and achieved his goal of obtaining nuclear weapons. Roger rented a venue that could accommodate 30,000 people for a speech, and the staff revealed that on Saturday, Roger would receive the launch codes and declare independence from NATO. Ruby realized that the time had come. She disregarded everyone's attempts to stop her, and entered the field. Then she aimed her phone at Roger, continuously moving backward. The distance between them grew further. Armed personnel aimed their weapons at Ruby, to prevent her from harming the Prime Minister.
73 yards.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
The woman in black appeared 73 yards away, successfully scaring Roger away. The resignation of the new Prime Minister also became an unsolved mystery in the political world, but Ruby did not return to her initial starting point. 40 years passed. An elderly Ruby returned to Wales. To her surprise, the time machine was still standing in its original place, and had even become a landmark in the town. People often came to lay flowers in memory of their deceased loved ones. Ruby never found her mother in her lifetime, and she lost friends and her foster mother. She came this time to bid farewell. In the evening, the caregiver helped Ruby onto the bed to rest. In the middle of the night, she suddenly awoke, and found the woman who was always 73 yards away from her, slowly approaching. Ruby waited for this moment. She unexpectedly transformed into the woman in black standing at 73 yards away, observing her younger self stepping out of the time machine with the Doctor.
Who's she?
Who?
What, over there?
Where?
The woman in black disappeared. Ruby called out to the Doctor, asking him to avoid the fairy circles on the ground, and the two of them continued on their path. For some unknown reason, Ruby always had a feeling that she had visited Wales 3 times, but she couldn't recall the memories of the last visit. Bath, England. In 1813, 2 men were arguing at a party. Gabriel accused Barton of insulting his sister, and demanded that Barton marry his younger sister. Barton outright refused.
Hand me! That's impossible!
Surprisingly, Gabriel transformed into Barton's appearance. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Ruby were at a noble ball. Ruby wore a mind-link earring, which transmitted dance steps to her motor system. Even those who couldn't dance became the best dancers, and it could switch to combat mode. Just then, the headphones emitted sonar interference. There were people present who didn't belong to this world. The Doctor took out his sonic screwdriver to investigate. He quickly discovered a man in a blue suit on the second floor was staring at him. The hostess of the ball, Lady Duchess, wanted to introduce Ruby to Sir Barton, but Ruby didn't like this person. She saw a portrait. The person in the painting looked exactly like virtual human of Villengard, and also identical to Lindy's mother. But Lady Duchess claimed that it was my husband's deceased mother. Just then, Barton was chasing Miss Emily. Ruby followed with a glass of wine. Emily was interested in Barton, but the man had to obey the elders. He didn't dare marry Emily. At the same time, he also didn't want to lose his lover. He deceived Emily with sweet words. Ruby accidentally knocked a book off the bookshelf. Barton quickly fled the scene. Ruby approached Emily to comfort her, and they got along very well, so she invited Emily to dance. Meanwhile, Lady Duchess arrived outside the ballroom. She saw the butler standing nearby. She quickly asked him to keep his distance, and not disturb the guests' enjoyment. The butler looked at Lady Duchess, as if he took an interest in her dress.
Maybe it will look better on me.
In an instant, Lady Duchess transformed into a corpse, and was replaced by a monster. On the other side, the Doctor asked the man in the blue suit named Rogue. Both of them were suspicious of each other. They went outside to have a detailed conversation. As they had just walked a short distance, they saw the body of Lady Duchess, and Rogue didn't seem surprised at all. He even pulled out a gun, and aimed it at the Doctor. It turned out, Rogue was an interstellar bounty hunter. He came to Earth to capture the shape-shifting children disguised as humans, also known as shapeshifters. So he suspected the Doctor of being an alien, and was ready to take him back to his spaceship. However, the Doctor quickly realized that it was an old asteroid hopper, which required 2 people to operate. Rogue ignored the Doctor, and trapped him in a triangular configuration. The device functioned like a teleportation portal, but it needed time to charge with energy.
Transport to where?
The incinerator.
It's a death sentence. You're a killer.
The Doctor attempted to use a sonic screwdriver to free himself, but it didn't work. He used the screwdriver to open the speaker system, to see what kind of taste this hunter had.
Oh, I love this.
Classic.
The Doctor teased Rogue. Rogue got very angry. He snatched the sonic screwdriver. The Doctor presented his identification to prove his identity.
Does it? I'm sorry. No, it's broken.
Is it you're hot or
no,
I'm hot?
it is just that it's...
Who's hot, Doctor?
As everyone knows, the psychic paper reacts to the reader's consciousness. So the question of who was more charming, we won't continue discussing it. Rogue didn't want to kill the wrong person. He started scanning the Doctor. The results showed that he was a shapeshifter. The Doctor activated the deep scan device. Successive images of previous incarnations of the Doctor appeared.
I'm much older. I'm something much older and far more powerful.
Rogue was stunned. He had actually caught a Time Lord. Then, the Doctor took him on a tour of the TARDIS. Rogue was truly amazed. However, the Doctor didn't intend to kill the Chulder. He set a trap using the TARDIS, planning to send the Chulder to a desolate place as punishment. The Doctor felt sympathy for Rogue. He knew that this bounty hunter must have lost someone important, so he invited Rogue to join him, to explore different worlds together. But Rogue didn't want to give up the life of a bounty hunter. He asked the Doctor if he wanted to leave together. Just then, the trap was set. The 2 of them immediately returned to the party.
There's a dead body upstairs. It's been drained. Someone will come for this killed them.
Oh, you know. Should we be telling humans?
The Doctor introduced the 2 men to each other. He explained that the Chulder loved role-playing. They liked to wear people as costumes, and blend into the crowd, sending the footage to their own planet, as entertainment for everyone, to lure the Chulder out. The Doctor invited Rogue to act together, preferably with plenty of scandals, so they would pay attention.
I don't see how us dancing will create a scene. Then you should have researched this era a little more because we...
The 2 men dancing together indeed caught everyone's attention. Of course, this alone wasn't enough to expose the Chulder. The Doctor performed a drama of love and status, a grand play of indecision, and ultimate tension. Rogue even knelt down and presented a ring. The Doctor couldn't help but rush out the door, while the Chulder ran outside, and revealed their true form. both fighting over the bodies of the two men. Rogue pulled the doctor into a carriage to hide. The Chulder searched several rounds, but couldn't find them. They had no choice but to return to the party, because they had even greater goals. The Parliament, the royal family, the king. Once the Chulder infiltrated them, they could wage war against France and Spain, using role-playing to destroy this planet. Meanwhile, the doctor took the opportunity to confirm the number of Chulder. He reconfigured the teleportation grid to capture as many of them as possible, striving to capture them all. But due to limited energy, there was only one chance. On the other side, Ruby is comforting the frightened Emily, but Emily's eyes reveal a greedy gaze, as it has finally found the desired human body.
A ruby sundae. I want to be.
The doctor returns to the party, only to find Ruby standing with the Chulder, her stiff movements unlike those of a human, clearly replaced. The doctor is momentarily unable to accept the truth. He had promised Carla to protect Ruby, yet he has lost another important person. The doctor vows to make them pay. Meanwhile, the Chulder in the hall sees the priest's clothes, preparing to hold a wedding for Ruby and their kin, taking tonight's performance to its climax. Unexpectedly, the doctor suddenly appears with a teleporter, while the other two are already in position. The Chulder are quickly surrounded in a triangle formation. Just as the doctor is about to activate the teleportation, Ruby speaks up. She not only remembers what happened between them, but also knows all their conversations. What is going on? It turns out that when the Chulder were about to take over, Ruby activates the combat mode of her earring, and knocks out the fake Emily who had infiltrated. The unconscious Emily comes to. Rogue immediately grabs, and throws it into the triangle formation, prompting the doctor to activate the teleporter immediately. Otherwise, the Chulder will surely trigger a world war. But the latter can't bring himself to do it, because Ruby is still inside the teleportation grid. On one side is the fate of all humanity. On the other side is the life of a dear friend. Rogue knows. The doctor is struggling to make a decision. He snatches the controller, and throws himself to push Ruby away.
Find me.
Ruby asks the doctor why he didn't go to find Rogue, but the doctor understands that hope is slim. There are as many latitudes as atoms in the universe. He simply can't find Rogue, nor can he stop moving forward. The doctor takes out Rogue's ring, and puts it on his pinky finger, ending this chapter. Shortly after, the TARDIS flies to unit headquarters. Kate orders her subordinates to open the helicopter pad door. The doctor pilots the TARDIS into the bridge, giving his old friends a warm embrace. Then he explains the purpose of this visit. He retrieves a photo of Villengard, the virtual person, stating that in several travels, and has seen this mysterious woman. The doctor hopes that unit can help identify this person. Kate and the others show a hesitant expression. Is there a need for an investigation? Earthlings all recognize the woman in the photo. Her name is Susan Triad, a genius in information technology. Today, she will release her software worldwide for free. Susan shares the same name as the doctor's granddaughter. Just rearrange the letters of her company's name, and you get TARDIS. This Susan is here because of the doctor. 3 years ago, she founded Triad Corporation, until 2 months ago, when it changed to a new name that implies TARDIS. Kate has her eye on Susan, to prevent her from using alien technology without authorization, but UNIT has made no progress in investigating Susan. Ruby asks the doctor, can't he recognize his own granddaughter? The doctor explains, whenever the Time Lord is near death, they regenerate into a new body with a different appearance, so the doctor is hesitant to easily recognize them. Kate has infiltrated Susan's company's signal chain. Susan's global livestream is scheduled for 3 p.m. UNIT has also placed a spy near Susan, the doctor's old friend, Chatterbox Melanine. However, she hasn't found anything suspicious about Susan. Let's put this issue aside for now. The doctor's return to Earth this time involves another matter to handle. That is, finding Ruby's biological mother. Because 20 years ago, the doctor, to save Ruby, had traveled to the timeline of that period, and he can't interfere with his own history. He returns to the night when Ruby was abandoned, thus unable to confirm her birth mother through the time machine. At this moment, UNIT staff member Harley discovers, on Christmas 20 years ago, 73 yards away from St. Luke's Church, where Ruby was found, there was a camera that likely captured everything. Yet, Ruby had checked that camera a long time ago. In the black and white footage, there were only snowflakes. Fortunately, UNIT's technology can enhance the image quality. He asks Ruby to go home and bring the videotape. upon hearing that she can find her birth mother. Carla also wants to witness the miraculous moment. The two of them leave their grandmother with the neighbor. After Ruby and the others leave, the neighbor says something strange.
There's a storm coming in. He waits no more.
On the other side, Kate sees the doctor, who appears saddened. She asks why he never mentioned his granddaughter, and since he has a granddaughter, does it mean he also has a child? The existence of the Time Lord is very complex, so it's not strange to have a granddaughter before having a daughter. The doctor doesn't actively seek out Susan, because he doesn't want to bring her any misfortune. Just at that moment, Melanie returns. She also obtains Susan's DNA. After testing, it is confirmed that she is human. Nevertheless, Kate has a theory. A caterpillar doesn't know it will become a butterfly. A phoenix is just a bird before it burns. Perhaps one day Susan might turn out to be villain. Right after that, Ruby returns with the videotape, but Carla is stopped at the door due to insufficient permissions. The doctor quickly swipes his card to let her in. Then he asks Kate if there's a time window. Although in the 1970s, the doctor explicitly warned them, prohibiting UNIT from conducting any time experiments. Kate did hide a time window on the 10th underground level. Yet, the overall production is very rough. This time window utilizes the combined nuclear output of all of Europe, and projects historical footage into the past. But it can only capture small and brief moments, and it is unable to glimpse the details of history. It is limited to observation without intervention. However, this time, they have a specific videotape. The doctor plans to feed all the information from it to the time window to completely rebuild Christmas Eve in 2004. The time window has not been activated yet. Snowflakes are floating in the air again, just as expected. Ruby is indeed different from ordinary people. The two of them are ready to begin their journey through time and space.
Bring it back! Bring it back!
Bring it back!
When they opened their eyes, they found themselves in the snowy night of 20 years ago. The person in the cloak approached step by step, but they couldn't see her face. Ruby wanted to get closer to observe, but the doctor pulled her back, as they couldn't move freely. The person in black was about to pass by Ruby, but the screen suddenly glitched and flickered. No one saw Ruby's mother's face. Right after that, the TARDIS landed. The doctor rushed out to deal with the Sontaran. Only then did he realize a problem.
Time is memory, and memory is time. Then what is the memory of a time machine?
The mysterious figure in black appeared again, and stood still in the same spot. Carla wondered if she would cry. No mother would leave her child behind. The doctor successfully saved her in 2004 and came back running, but this time things had changed. The figure in black actually pointed at the doctor, specifically in the northwest direction. The doctor had never anticipated a change in his memory. Ignoring Kate's objections, he had the soldiers check if there was anything else in the northwest, but apart from the TARDIS, there was nothing else in the snowy landscape. The figure in black quickly vanished from the scene. The doctor also returned to the TARDIS to leave the place. Ruby was very sad, and the doctor hurriedly comforted her. At that moment, a UNIT staff member named Morris suddenly spoke up, pointing in shock behind them. The soldier in charge of investigation had disappeared without a trace. The detection data showed that this unidentified object was both cold and hot, radiating but lifeless. No one knew what it really was. At that moment, a voice came from the black mist, belonging to the missing soldier.
Ellis, where are you?
I am now.
The entire time window began to collapse, and the doctor and Carla returned to reality. Not far away lay the corpse of the missing soldier. He looked like he had been dead for hundreds of years. Kate is very unhappy with the doctor. Are the lives of soldiers less important than Ruby's? She said, not to mess around with the time window. After this incident, the doctor plans to meet Susan Triad. He quickly arrived at her workplace building. If Susan is really his granddaughter, then she must be the key to all of this. During this time, Kate analyzed the entire video. She discovered that the video footage had changed. No matter what that thing is, it rushed out from the time window. The doctor instructed Kate to deconstruct every pixel. They must find out what that mist is. There are only 3 minutes left for the global broadcast. He shook hands with Susan through Melanie's introduction. He immediately realized this person is not his granddaughter, and Susan appeared very tired. She hasn't been sleeping well, and has been having nightmares.
Do you dream about a girl called Lindy? Do you dream about a place called Pacifico Del Rio?
Clearly, the doctor was right, but Susan really can't miss this live broadcast. On the other side, a unit staff member tried to play the video in reverse, to see what happens if time is reversed. The center of the storm finally revealed its true form. Hidden beneath the mist was actually a TARDIS. The TARDIS emitted a buzzing sound. The doctor recognized the sound through his earpiece. Since the unknown entity is on the videotape, it must also be present around the TARDIS. That means, it is also lurking on the TARDIS at this moment. The doctor told Kate to clear the entire area, and leave the TARDIS alone there, and he always felt this matter was related to Susan Triad. Morris scanned the TARDIS. Indeed, it detected a life form attached to it. At the same time, Susan suddenly went off topic. She no longer talked about software technology, but started talking about her nightmares.
Blue skin, a dream of metal eyes.
On the other side, in the name of the Supreme Commander, Kate ordered the creature hidden on the TARDIS to reveal itself.
Howling void, he is hidden within the tempest. What? He has braved the storm.
Harriet kept saying things that were incomprehensible. After hearing this, the doctor asked Kate for Harriet's full name. He learned that her name was Harriet Arbinger. Rearranging the letters spells out Harbinger.
Harbingers to warn us of their coming. But which god?
Ruby obeyed the doctor's words, and went to the time window. She discovered that it was actually returned to that Christmas Eve. Without turning it on, everything was out of control. The names of various deities flashed by. The Toy Maker, god of games. The Trickster, god of traps. The Maestro, god of music. The Corrupter, god of malice. Mara, god of beasts. And the Trinity of malice, mischief, and pain. Finally, the name of this mysterious deity was revealed.
It was the wrong anagram.
Lurking on the TARDIS is none other than the god of death and destruction. At this moment, Susan also transforms into a skeletal monster. Anyone she touches instantly turns to dust and destruction. Susan blows out the dust of death. Wherever it goes, no grass grows. Melanie and the doctor hurriedly escape. Encountering Sutek, Unit is like an egg against a rock. Including Kate. Everyone sacrifices themselves. The god of death devours the entire city of London. Countless people turn to dust before they can react. Even Carla on her way home isn't spared. The neighbor woman disappears with her grandmother in her arms. The doctor and Melanie run back to the time window to meet up with Ruby. The TARDIS here is incredibly real. The doctor can even open the door and walk inside, because this is the TARDIS in Ruby's memory. As long as she works to perfect the details, the TARDIS will become even more real, until it manifests physically. As Ruby recalls the process, Sutek appears from behind. The doctor and this enemy are not strangers. In 1911, he had personally sent Sutek into a time vortex to permanently bind and imprison him. Unexpectedly, Sutek grabbed hold of the TARDIS, not only escaping the time vortex, but also following the doctor on travels. Over all these years, it has absorbed unimaginable amounts of energy, evolving into a true divinity. Sutek understands every detail of the TARDIS, intending to claim it for itself. It turns the door of the TARDIS to the rear, and Susan is just a cosmic illusion created by Sutek. It intentionally places her in every world the doctor has visited. Now the time has come. Susan will release the dust of death throughout the universe, killing all living beings, because Sutek believes any living being that breathes is detestable. The doctor provokes. Then why don't you come and kill me? I am the last Time Lord in the entire universe, an endangered species on the brink of extinction. Killing me would be the greatest gift. The doctor takes Ruby and himself, and hides in the TARDIS created from fragments of memories. Although the interior is a bit crude, it still functions. They escape the crumbling Earth, struggling to maintain the stability of the TARDIS. Melanie is curious why the doctor never noticed that a real Susan was created when the TARDIS landed. The reason is simple. The TARDIS has a sensory filter with a range of 73 yards, so the doctor couldn't detect Susan's presence, and he has landed on Earth hundreds of times. Each time, Susan's personality became more complete. As a result, she rapidly grew into an influential tech giant. The Earth has already been consumed by the dust of death. Other stars also gradually lose their radiance because of Susan. The doctor never thought that his travels would sow seeds of destruction in every time and space. Meanwhile, Sutek senses Ruby's secret origin, which is highly likely to be more significant than the Time Lord. At this moment, the doctor arrives on a desolate planet. He has been wandering for a long time, unable to find any living beings. Unexpectedly, There is a surviving mother and child here. The doctor wants to borrow a piece of metal from the woman. She searches the entire house, and only finds a spoon. She hands the spoon to the doctor. Although it is a very precious metal, this world is already on the brink of destruction. No matter how valuable, it cannot be preserved. The child in the cradle dies soon after. The woman also turns into ashes. The doctor takes the spoon back to the TARDIS. Metal in the real world has significant effects on memory. The doctor inserts the spoon into the window monitor. The scene reappears on the screen. The mysterious figure points to a scene in the northwest direction. The doctor suddenly understands. Sutek may also fear this mysterious figure in black robes. He can witness all time and space, yet he cannot see through the identity of the figure in black robes. So, that's why Sutek didn't kill the doctor, because it wants to use the doctor to find out who Ruby's mother really is. Just then, Melanie behaves strangely, because Sutek is controlling her through time and space, wanting to monitor the doctor through Melanie's eyes. At this moment, the monitor shows another interview video of Crazy Jack. During his campaign for Prime Minister in 2046, he proposed to record the DNA of all British citizens in an archive. So, if they go to 2046, they might actually find out Ruby's mother's identity. The doctor is about to gather energy for time travel. Suddenly, a pile of debris falls from the ceiling. He picks up a whistle and hangs it around his neck, getting ready to go to 2046. Ruby can't help but ask, the Earth was destroyed in 2024. Can we really enter 2046? The doctor explains. He has been to 2046 before. He left a time marker there. 2046 still exists in the midst of death. The two of them are busy starting the TARDIS. They didn't notice that Melanie is acting strange. Shortly after, the three of them arrive in 2046. The doctor opens the door of the Department of Health with a sonic screwdriver and asks Melanie to guard the door. He pricks Ruby's finger and drops the blood on a tester. The result is hidden among 76 million people. Just then, snowflakes start falling from the sky again. Melanie gradually loses control. The monitor has found DNA matching Ruby's. Melanie rushes in. The three of them are immediately transported back to 2024. Sutek tells Ruby to hand over the monitor. He wants to know who the mysterious woman is. The doctor tries to intervene, but Sutek blocks him with psychic powers. Ruby approaches with the monitor. Although they did find matching DNA on it, Ruby can't make sense of it at all.
Maybe this is for you. You great big god of nothing.
Ruby takes out the hidden molecular rope and captures Sutek. Then she hands the other end to the doctor. It turns out, when he shook hands with Melanie at the Department of Health, he noticed that her body temperature was too low, so he had made a plan with Ruby in advance. The doctor keeps blowing the whistle. He remotely opens the time vortex inside the TARDIS. Harriet Arbinger nearby are stunned. The TARDIS quickly escapes from Suteka's grasp, returning to the doctor's side. The doctor and Ruby immediately tie the molecular rope around the base of the console. They pull Sutek into the time vortex. The god of death is immobilized at the back. The doctor asks Sutek, what would happen if you bring death to death? The answer is soon revealed. The TARDIS pulls Sutek back through time. Everywhere they go, life is restored. One planet after another lights up. Those departed loved ones come back to life. The mother and daughter who gave him a spoon also revive. The doctor approaches the back door and faces the god of death directly and unties its rope. Finally, UNIT takes Susan under its command. Although she was created by Sutek, she is indeed a living person with an intelligent mind. Meanwhile, Morris finds Ruby's birth mother from the database. Her name is Louise Allison. She is only 35 years old this year. She gave birth to Ruby at the age of 15. Due to having a violently addicted stepfather, she abandoned her daughter. The doctor and the gods cannot see through Louise, because this seemingly ordinary woman is the beginning and center of all the events. What Louise is pointing at is actually a signpost marked with Ruby. She was just naming her own daughter. Finally, Ruby successfully meets her.
It was named after a road. Ruby Road.
Mother and daughter embrace and cry together. Shortly after, Ruby finds her father. It's clear that the balance in her heart has shifted towards an ordinary life. The doctor understands what Ruby is thinking. Once again, he bids farewell to his companions and sets off alone. Ruby Sunday finds her happy ending, but the doctor's story is not yet over. Let's look forward to the next season together. Overall, the whole season is still good, but the finale had a cliff-like decline. After all, The extraordinary background of Ruby was being set up all along, and then the abnormal heavy snow, and Christmas carols, that scared the god of music to scream. In the end, Ruby's mom is just an ordinary person, and the children were taken away by the priest. What do you mean by naming the signpost? A typical case of starting strong but ending poorly. If you like my channel, please subscribe to me.